Hi friends. Okay, so I had a hard time deciding what we were going to watercolor this week because I wanted to do something that was themed with space or the moon or sun, and I just really couldn't find anything that I really liked. So since the last couple of watercolor we've done have been pretty intense, there's been a lot going on, we're going to do something pretty easy today. Sorry that my paper is nice and wrinkled. One of our cats decided to sleep on it last night, so we're just gonna make do. So what we're gonna do today is kind of a galaxy one, but not quite because we don't really have the correct colors for it. But what we're gonna do is wet on wet, and I'm gonna let you guys have a little bit of freedom in what you choose and how you do it. I will say though, be careful, because we know that if we mix all three of our colors together, we end up with brown. So you need to be very careful about how you decide to mix your colors and what you decide to do with them, okay? I am going to kind of tell you where the places are that you can make your own choices and not what I'm doing. And yeah, all right, let's get started. So we're gonna do wet on wet because we are gonna be mixing paint quite a bit today, or watercolor quite a bit today. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you check and make sure your brush is clean, because remember, you don't wanna get other colors on your paper before you even start. And once you've decided, or once you've made sure it's clean, go ahead and wet your entire page. I did not clean my whiteboard or my board before I started this, which was not a good choice because I'm afraid I'm going to get some of these colors on here, but I think it'll be okay today because of what we're going to be doing. You want to make sure that you get your paper wet enough that we can mix colors, but you don't want to get it so wet that it's hard to control the colors. So keep that in mind. You don't want it sopping wet, but you want it wet enough. Sorry guys. You want it wet enough that we can move some colors around on there. Sorry, didn't mean to hit the thing. Be more careful about that. All right, almost done. Okay, this is your first place where you can make your own choice. You do not have to do what I do. I am going to choose to put blue down as my base color. If you would rather choose yellow or red, you are more than welcome to do that. This is your first spot where you can kind of make that choice. I'm gonna make sure my whole page is wet first. Go back up here and get some of these spots that have dried a little bit. It looks good. My brush is clean, so I'm gonna go ahead in and get some blue. I am gonna start by painting my entire page blue, okay? Again, you can choose whichever color you would like to. If you'd like to do the entire thing red, go for it. If you would like to do the entire thing yellow, go for it. When I put the pigment in there for you guys, I put enough in there that you can continue to add water to it. I'm going to caution you not to dip down and get too much of that pigment every time you paint, because if you continue doing that, you're going to run out of the pigment, and there's not really a way for me to get that to you again. It's not quite as easy as the watercolor paper to get more of. All right, so you can see I'm almost finished with my entire page blue here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean my brush really well, and I am going to start just kind of mixing some colors on my page and just kind of playing around with the different colors. And sort of see what we end up with. We're all gonna kind of end up with different, they all look different anyway, because like Miss Anna says all the time in handwork, you guys are given the same materials, but somehow the work always looks uniquely awesome. All right, so I'm gonna clean my brush, make sure it's nice and clean. Make sure I don't have a whole lot of color on it, or any color on it really. I think I'm gonna go in with red next, so, cause it's gonna make purple, and you guys know I like purple. And I'm just gonna kind of find some places to put some dots of red in here. And then I'm just gonna kind of mess around with it until I get a color that I like. And different spots though. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like paint the whole bottom of it that color or anything like that. I'm just gonna kind of move the colors around a little bit so I've got different spots with different colors on it. If you have a relatively wet paper and you think that the colors will move on it, you can kind of pick your paper up and see how this is running a little bit. It looks pretty cool actually. I may do that a couple more times. Let's see how it's running down into this. That's going to meet there in just a second. Again, be careful though, because if all of our colors end up together, you know, we're going to end up with brown. We don't want to end up with brown. All right, I'm going to clean my brush again and I'm going to go in with yellow. Think about the colors that you do based on what you did. So for example, if you decided to make your entire background yellow, you're probably going to want to think about how you want to mix them. If you mix red with it, you're going to make orange. And if you mix blue with your yellow, you're going to make green. So kind of think about that before you do that. If you decided to go with red on the bottom, if you mix yellow with it, you'll end up with orange. And if you mix blue with it, you're going to end up with green. So think about how that's going to play out before you start painting. All right, I'm going to go with a little bit of yellow. I think I'm going to start down here in this corner with the yellow. Again, I'm going to mix it a little bit with the blue until I get a color that I'm interested in. There we go. See how that's kind of coming green there? I want this whole corner to be green. All right, then there's some area over here I'm going to make green. I'm going to stay away from that purple though, because again, I don't want to end up with brown. I mean, if it becomes brown, it's not the end of the world, but you know. I'll paint some of the bottom of it green too. There we go. All right, and then I'm gonna tilt the page a little bit and see what happens when I let it run a different way. I'm gonna clean my brush too and put a little more water on here so it runs a little bit more. There we go. I'm gonna paint through some of these areas though, because see how it's getting kind of, there we go. Here too. Because my paper was sort of bent to begin with, I'm getting places where things are pooling. So, all right, I'm gonna clean it one more time so I have water on here. And then once I'm sure it's clean, I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna put some drops of water in places so I can kind of make it move a little bit more on the paper. There we go. Those drops look kind of cool. I should maybe leave it like that. Play around a little bit though. Be smart about it, because remember, we don't want all three of our colors to mix, because I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. We'll end up with brown, and we don't want brown. Well, I mean, unless you do want brown. If you want brown, this is a good time to practice making the color brown. But play around a little bit with it and see what you can kind of make happen. I know this is easy for me to pick my paper up because it's on a paint board. If you don't have a paint board, you might have to pick the actual paper up. But honestly, I kind of like the way this looks with the water because it made some of these spots a little lighter than they were to begin with. The drops of water are kind of fun. But just kind of explore and play around and see what you end up with. Everybody's is going to look different, which I actually think is going to be really cool. And I'm really curious to see what this is going to look like when it dries too, because we all know that it ends up looking different when it dries, doesn't it? All right, I think I'm going to leave mine there because I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. So I'm not going to mess with it anymore. Yeah. Ooh, you know what I might do is, you know what else you can do if you're interested in it is if you have some salt around, you can sprinkle some salt on here to see what happens. One second. All right, I just went to the kitchen and grabbed some salt. So I'm going to sprinkle some salt on mine and see what that does to the end product there. If you don't have salt, don't worry about it. If you do have salt, it's kind of fun to add to it to see what it does. But yeah, All right, friends, that is it for our watercolor today. All right, I will see you back for another video later. Bye.